Straight ahead, the final full week of the Texas Legislature, property tax breaks, banning THC, and a bill to defund DART. What will pass, what will not? Texas poised to prohibit teenagers from having social media accounts. A lot of questions around this one. State Rep Jared Patterson with us from the Capitol. Lawmakers killed a bill to ban forever chemicals in fertilizer, and they're now considering legislation to put fracking water on crops. Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller with us from Austin. Senator Ted Cruz wants to spend billions of dollars to boost school choice, plus the bipartisan bill he got passed to protect girls from deep fake nude images. And will he endorse Cornyn or Paxton in the GOP primary? Plus, the Democratic state rep walking away from a safe seat in the House to challenge Dan Patrick for lieutenant governor.
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Welcome to Inside Texas Politics. I'm Jason Whiteley. This is the final full week of the Texas Legislature, and already lawmakers are giving Texas homeowners a little more relief on their property taxes. Senate Bill 4 passed the House and Senate. This one increases your homestead exemption from $100,000 and takes it up to $140,000, essentially reducing how much your home can be taxed. Texas, though, still has the 7th highest property taxes in the nation. The bill to defund the Dallas area rapid transit appears dead. Plano and a half dozen other cities in North Texas say they pay more into DART than they receive back in services. So State Rep Matt Shaheen introduced a bill to give cities some of their money back from that mass transit agency. The legislation passed in a committee, but did not make it to the full House for a floor vote. And Democratic State Rep Vicki Goodwin says she's going to give up her safe seat in the House and run for lieutenant governor. Goodwin is a realtor who represents parts of Austin. Among her priorities, to fully fund public schools. The campaign obviously going to be an uphill battle, though. Incumbent Dan Patrick running again. He already has a $33 million campaign account, and Democrats have not won a statewide election since 1994. Let's start, though, with the last-minute rush to pass priorities in Austin. The legislature adjourns June 2nd. One bill we have watched for several years now is finally moving. It would ban minors from having social media accounts, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. State Rep Jared Patterson is behind it, a Republican who represents parts of Denton County. Representative, welcome back to the program here. You've introduced this before. Why do you think there is finally momentum to move this bill this session?
Well, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. And we have been working on this for multiple sessions now, multiple interim study committees. But this last interim, and actually 1 week to the day before the session started, we had a joint committee hearing between the House and the Senate, which I was honored to co-chair with Senator Brian Hughes, where we laid out this topic once again, and this topic being the incredible harms perpetrated on our youth by these social media companies. I still say that these social media products are the most harmful thing that our kids have legal access to in Texas, and we are on the verge of stopping it this session.
The bill would prohibit minors from creating accounts on social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, etc., and require users to verify their ages.
Yes.
And you and I have discussed this before, but how in the world do you enforce it? You're requiring the social media companies to be the enforcers here.
Absolutely. I mean, we put it all on them, and if they don't do it, then there are legal consequences through the Attorney General's office for them not upholding the law in Texas. Look, at the end of the day, here's what we're dealing with, Jason. We're dealing with a 48% rise amongst boys and 188% rise amongst girls in ER visits because of self-harm. We're talking about a 91% increase in suicide rates for boys and 167% increase in suicide amongst girls, all correlated to the rise in use of social media amongst young people. This is a dangerous product, and the social media companies themselves continue to refuse to show up and answer for the harms that they are doing to our children in any House committee. They don't show up. They never have, as far as I know. They didn't in the last 2 interim committees. They certainly didn't when I laid out the bill in the Texas House. They refuse to answer for what they're doing to our kids.
We've also heard discussions about teen athletes as well, Representative, and athletes who use social media to show their videos to coaches and potential colleges, et cetera. Do you think this bill, if it becomes law, would put Texas athletes at a disadvantage?
Look, I've heard that, and that's something I'm very well aware of with my own oldest son, who is in the AAU basketball circuit, and have coaches and folks asking him for his Instagram account, which he doesn't have one. And so, I'm very well aware of that. But what I'll say is there is nothing, absolutely nothing that stops a parent from creating an account for their child to promote their child, to promote their child's business, or to promote their child's athletic skills or anything else, to post videos of their child and to talk to recruiters, on behalf of their children. There is absolutely nothing in this bill that would stop that. All we're doing is saying that young people themselves can't have access to this harmful product.
If this legislation becomes law, it would be the strictest in the country. Do you expect it to face any legal challenges?
Well, every time that we seem to pass some bill to protect our kids, there's always someone out there wanting to sue the state of Texas to prevent that from happening. I've got experience with that with my Reader Act last time, which is still portions of that bill still hung up in the court. So we're trying to protect kids from explicit content in schools. So yes, absolutely, I expect this to meet legal challenges. Unfortunately, if you want any real meaningful policy done, it takes years of work on the front end of advocating and basically lobbying the legislature to get it through. A lot of hard work during a session to get a bill through, and then a lot of hard work on the back end protecting at the courts.
Representative, good to see you again. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring in the roundtable now to talk about the politics of this. Bud Kennedy is here from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I am Mitra with us from Austin at the Texas Tribune, and Natalie Haddad's political reporter at WFAA in Dallas. Bud, the momentum now is behind this bill in the final days of the legislature, and it's all about mental health, it seems like.
Well, we are in the final days, and these are the days, Jason, when you might go to the legislature and everybody might know your name, but you're not always glad you came when you go down there. The legislature passing a bill like this just creates more scofflaws. The kids will bypass it in a matter of seconds. There'll be teenagers who know how to bypass it. They might start using CB radios or America Online. Who knows? They're going to find ways to communicate. But if you made them play the game, are you smarter than a fifth grader? The fifth graders would win every time.
And that's a good point. We were talking about this a moment ago. Kids can easily get around this, I presume.
Kids will be able to easily get around it. And then also, as the representative mentioned too, like the companies aren't necessarily, what is their motivation to kind of comply with this law too? And that's just another kind of question about how this will actually be enforced and whether this will be effective going through the Attorney General's office. That's still kind of an open question about how that'll be enforced.
And Natalie, there's a lot of parents with mixed feelings on this.
Mixed feelings, and I don't think parents would go out to say, no, that social media can't be harmful to children, but I do think that they would go to bat and say, I think 18 is a little high on the age range. I don't know, I'm not an athlete. I did not deal with that realm of things when I was in high school, but I do wonder, does a coach actually just want to do all business through the parents? Don't they want to get to know the athlete they may be bringing on? That was just one example,
Sure.
Of course. But athletes did go and testify against this bill just in the last week.
So no, there is still a lot of questions that parents have on how it would be enforced and whether their kids can get around it as well, too.
Jason, it just teaches kids to lose respect for the law, to make fun of the law. It just turns it into a joke.
All right, guys, a lot more ahead, including this. When we come back here, Senator Ted Cruz on his plan to spend billions to boost school vouchers. And will he endorse Cornyn or Paxton in next year's Republican race for Senate? Plus, would you eat fruits and vegetables sprayed with treated water from oil and gas fracking? Something the legislature is discussing. Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller is up next when Inside Texas Politics returns. Welcome back to Inside Texas Politics. It is no secret Texas faces a water shortage, but state lawmakers are now talking about treating contaminated fracking water to irrigate crops. Oil and gas companies even want legal protection from it. But is this safe? Can the water really be cleaned, and would you eat fruits and vegetables sprayed with it? We began there with Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller. Commissioner Miller, welcome back to the program here. I want to start off with this fracking water here. Do Texas farmers really want to use fracking water on their crops?
Well, we need water. We really care what the source is, as long as it's good, clean water that we can grow crops with. So fracking water would be fine.
The water would be treated to reduce the chemicals and heavy metals in it, but would you eat fruits and vegetables that have been sprayed with this?
There is a reasonable way. It doesn't need to be treated. It needs to be cleaned up, in my opinion. We don't just need to treat it. We need to take the harmful heavy metals, other things out of it, and make it, good, clean, pure water. Anything short of that, it's probably not going to work. But there is a way to do that, and there is a way to test that and regulate it. And the TCEQ would have oversight over that. And as long as this water meets those regulations, those strict guidelines, I don't have a problem with it. We need the water, whatever source we can get it from. I would suggest probably a better use of it would be fracking. Let this all industry reuse it themselves. They use millions and millions of gallons in fracking, and we certainly don't need the deep injection wells. Those are proven to cause earthquakes. So we need to do something different with it. So I'm excited that we are looking at other avenues other than deep injection wells.
How close are we to actually cleaning it and making it usable for farmers?
Well, I think we're pretty close. I don't know that we're all the way there yet, but with the technology and AI and everything that we've got available to us now, we're in the technology age, so it's certainly doable, and it's probably doable pretty quick, I would think.
Let's talk forever chemicals for a moment here. It's found in treated sewage, and some of that treated sewage ends up as fertilizer on farmers' crops. And it's creating a lot of problems, as you and I have talked about in the past here. An effort to regulate this died in the House. Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a lot of companies that have interest in this. The big cities, they need to get rid of that sludge. The people that buy it and distribute it, they're pretty heavy hitters. The problem is we need to address it at the source. We still need that compost from those cities, the sewage sludge. It's good fertilizer. It really is. We just need to get the PFAS and the heavy metals out of it before it's distributed on our land. That's where the key is to making this work. We don't want to ban distribution of biosolids on agricultural lands. It's good as long as it's pure and it's clean and we get the PFAS out of it. So we've got to come up with a way to make sure the PFAS is all removed before it's land applied.
But without action from the legislature, that's not going to be required for at least the next 2 years, right?
You're absolutely correct. I'm very disappointed that we didn't make any headway on that.
Commissioner, good to see you again.
Thank you, Jason. God bless.
A teenage girl from Aledo, there in the white, flanking President Trump in the Rose Garden. He signed a bipartisan bill into law that bans non-consensual deep-fake nude images, ones easily made with AI. This is something Senator Ted Cruz has been trying to pass since someone posed a fake picture of that teenage girl from Aledo. Her name is Elliston Berry. We spoke to the senator afterwards there at the Capitol. Senator Cruz, welcome back to the program here. Congratulations on the Take It Down Act. This bill, as you and I discussed, did not pass in the last Congress, but you were determined not to let this thing go. Why did this piece of legislation mean so much to you? Was it because you're a father of two girls yourself?
Look, absolutely. And I got to say, it's hard to be a teenager. Jason, when you and I were teenagers, life was much simpler. Heidi and I, our girls are 14 and 17, and the pressures that kids have, that teenagers face, particularly online, the predators, the targeting, the abuse, it is horrific. And every parent I know struggles with how do you protect your kids. And the Take It Down legislation is legislation we saw real bipartisan agreement working together. I drafted this along with Amy Klobuchar, Democrat from Minnesota. And the reason is we're seeing an explosion of in particular, women and teenage girls being targeted online. And they're targeted by non-consensual intimate images, either real pictures, so-called revenge porn, or more and more, we're seeing deepfakes, where someone uses artificial intelligence to create what appears to be a naked picture or an explicit video. And if you're looking at it, you think it's real, but it's totally fake. And as you know, the impetus for this legislation was a teenage girl in North Texas, Elliston Berry, who lives in Aledo. And when she was 14, she was a freshman in high school. She woke up one morning and her phone was blowing up. Her friends were texting her. And it turned out a classmate of hers had taken a perfectly innocent picture from social media, had used an artificial intelligence app online to create a deep fake and sent what appeared to be naked pictures of this teenage girl to all her classmates. And it was horrific, and Elliston was in tears. But she and her mom called my office. She's a constituent. And she said, look,
Yeah.
you're my senator. Can you help? And we drafted this bill because what happened to Elliston is happening to women and teenage girls and teenage boys all across the country.
Let's talk about universal school choice legislation. You've been trying to get this bill passed for several years now, for 6 years, I believe. When I think of universal school choice, though, just that phrase itself, I think about wanting to send my kids to whatever elementary school that I deemed is best for them. How would this bill, though, help me do that?
Well, what this bill does is it creates a federal tax credit for contributions to scholarship granting organizations in the state. So if an individual or corporation gives money to a scholarship granting institution, you get a credit on your federal taxes. It's $10 billion a year, so it's $100 billion over 10 years. It's allocated among the states by population. So what that would mean for Texas is about a tenth of the population of America. So Texas would get about $1 billion a year in new scholarships, and there'd be scholarship granting organizations. So if you wanted your daughter or your son to go to a different school, you could apply and get a scholarship from a scholarship granting organization. So what this is doing is opening up a vast amount of resources. So freeing up scholarship resources so that kids can go to the school of their choice transforms their entire future. Texas has already passed the biggest and boldest school choice plan in America, and this federal legislation would be supplemental. It would be on top of that. Part of the purpose, in fact, right at the heart of the purpose of school choice, is to improve the public schools, because when faced with competition, we've seen it over and over again, the quality of education, the safety of students goes up when the parents and kids have other options, because then you've got to compete to keep the kids there.
Senator, before I let you go, do you expect to make any endorsements at all in the U.S. Senate race?
I don't. John Cornyn and Ken Paxton, they're both friends of mine. I know them both very well. I've worked closely with both of them for over a decade. I like and respect them. I'm going to stay out of this one. I'm going to trust the voters of Texas to make their decision.
Senator, always good to see you. Thank you for the time. Congratulations again on the Take It Down Act.
Appreciate it.
The roundtable is ready when we come back here on Inside Texas Politics. All right, time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Bud, Ian, and Natalie all back with us here. Let's start with education, Bud. Compromise finally reached on House Bill 2, the public school funding bill, $8.5 billion. Is that enough money, though, to make up for years of neglect, especially when you consider Fort Worth just closed 18 campuses the other day?
Well, in Texas, this was the big, beautiful bill we've been looking for. It was supposed to put more money in the schools. The Senate got its way totally. The Senate said, let's give it to the teachers. They gave half of this money directly to the teachers, $100, $200 raises for some of the teachers. The Senate did not want districts building more ad buildings, building more $100 million stadiums. They wanted to put the money into teachers' pockets. And that's what they did without really letting the local districts have any say-so over how the money's spent.
And Ian, the basic allotment is what the districts have been asking for a long time, how much they get per pupil from the state. And they said it's more than $1,000 they need. This bill only includes $55 in an increase in the basic allotment. Does that give any flexibility, though, at all to districts to spend the money how they want to use it?
Well, it's going to depend on on who you ask about that. The Senate says this actually does provide some flexibility in terms of some of the other funding too. And this obviously is clearly an element of structure over spending too, a lot more kind of directed by the states. So I think district leaders, school leaders are still kind of concerned about kind of catching up with a lot of inflationary concerns, as well as just backload of expenses too. So this will be yet to be seen. Although the educator raises are kind of being welcomed very heavily.
Yeah, and the educator raises, Natalie, are the other big element of this. $4.2 billion for teacher pay raises. They haven't had one in several years, though. Is that enough to make teachers happy?
I don't think they're going to tell you that it makes them happy. I think this isn't enough money to make up for the years that they didn't get any money. 2023, infamous time for Governor Greg Abbott, as some teachers would put it, holding money hostage from them because of school vouchers. Now school vouchers is here. And I would go out on a limb to say that they probably feel like this is a slap in the face.
Wow, I think so. But it comes down to retention. Is this enough money to keep teachers in public school classrooms?
Well, one point I'll make, the bill does include full-day pre-K, which was something that was very important to the districts and to the mayors across Texas.
All right, let's talk about, zoom out here and talk about the big winners and losers this legislative session. Who do you think is in the win column?
Well, you got to start with the governor. I mean, I think Greg Abbott really, in the campaign ahead of this legislative session, in terms of like prioritizing, candidates who are going to support his voucher campaign. That came through. I think Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick showed clear power in terms of he was saying that there should be a special session if THC wasn't addressed. That was. It's clear that those two, and I think Dustin Burrows, although I think Dan Patrick and Greg Abbott really kind of really are the top winners. I think Dustin Burrows, his ability to kind of work within that as part of the big three. I mean, they all can have things that they can hang their hat on, but I'd say Abbott and Patrick surely stood out.
Yeah, that's a good point, Natalie. I mean, at the end of the day, Abbott and Patrick did come out with the big winners here, but Burrows in his first session with the gavel as Speaker of the Texas House, I think came out pretty fine, it seems like.
I think people would say that this is a success for Speaker Burrows, certainly, especially in his first term as House Speaker and after the fallout of Dade Phelan and how negatively he seemed to have left his seat.
But
Dan Patrick got his way on everything. I think Dan's the big winner of the session. Whether it's THC, the schools, everything, Dan got his way. That's partly because the House was under so much criticism, and Speaker Burrows, they were called too liberal. This is the time of the session when the House is all trying to make up ground and act more conservative to be forgiven for things they didn't do early in the session.
And in the final seconds here, Bud, to the water crisis, any critical legislation going to address that?
I think it's still going to be a long time. There was a whole brouhaha that erupted last week over the proposed lake in northeast Texas.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to fight over water.
Yeah, and it's going to be a long fight with years ahead of us here, too. Guys, thanks so much. I and Natalie, Bud, we appreciate it, and thank you for watching as well. We're back next Sunday to take you inside Texas politics, and we hope to see you then.